Literacy Day, and while this is an exciting day for literature fanatics, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO has found that 26% of the world's population is illiterate. Even though the percentage of illiterate people in South Africa has decreased over the years, now the number of people who can't read and write is still significantly high. And now there's a new discussion in play, and that is do the mediums in which we used to read contribute to the decline or the promotion of the reading culture? And to help us talk about this further, I'm joined by Marius Du Plessis, and he holds the position of catalyst at Via Africa. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let's talk about the number of people who don't read and write in South Africa. Why is it still significantly so high?
You know, the South African Book Development Council last year released a report around reading culture, reading habits, literacy, illiteracy in the country. And the results were quite sad. There's about 60% of households in South Africa actually don't have a single book in them. And our illiteracy rates are still very high compared to Europe, compared to Asia, compared to America. So there are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is the high cost of printed books. One of them is sort of the legacy of the country that has undermined a lot of people and has taken away the opportunity to develop that kind of reading skill and reading culture. But what we've seen in the last couple of years is the sort of real penetration of technology in the hands of every person in the country, notably with cell phones. And I think we're missing out on an opportunity to get more and more people to read. Because, you know, we do read quite a lot. We think we don't. We think, oh, I don't have time to read a book. But we're constantly reading newspapers, we're reading magazines, we're reading on the internet, social media. So we need to move the narrative away from the importance of reading highbrow literature to actually reading whatever you can, even if you're reading the back of a cereal box. The point is that we read, and there's a lot of evidence and more research showing the importance of reading at a regularly. I actually yesterday read a research report from the University of Sussex in the United Kingdom, where they say that only 6 minutes of reading reduces your stress levels by about 68%. Now that is an enormous thing that you can achieve just by reading. And that's regardless of whether you're reading on if it's a printed book or an e-book or on a phone or a tablet, it doesn't matter. It's the act of reading that we need to be encouraging.
And reading can also boost your ego, inspire you in some way or the other. Let's now talk about the factors that contribute to people not reading. Is it because they can't, or they simply choose not to, they don't want to, or is it a matter of books being expensive or reading material being expensive and they can't afford it?
You've now brought up the three sort of main reasons why reading doesn't happen. A big one is illiteracy. Another big one in South Africa is the cost of printed books. Our books are relatively expensive compared to the developed world. So in the United Kingdom, for example, you can buy a new paperback novel for about the same price as an expensive cup of coffee. Now, we don't see that in South Africa at all. A new book here retails easily for about 200, 250 Rand, which is out of the reach of most people. So price definitely contributes towards it. And the other thing is books are competing for people's time. So the number one leisure activity in our country is television. About 80% of households in South Africa own a television. And if you compare that to the earlier stat that I gave you, where 60% of households don't own a book. So it's about people's priorities. Reading is the 5th most used activity to relax in our country. And I think we need to pop that up quite a lot. And how we can do that is by addressing issues of price. And that's where reading on digital devices really comes into play. You can easily pick up a book for 10 Rand on your phone or on a tablet. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. A feature phone has the exact same reading capabilities as the latest iPhone. So we need to address from a sort of institutional side, we need to fix the illiteracy, and that happens with basic education. And here I'd really like to to talk about something like the Read to Lead campaign, which is a Department of Basic Education initiative that the minister launched a while back. And the idea behind that is to inspire people to read and to show them the importance of reading. Like you mentioned earlier, you know, reading, it connects us to other people. It connects us to other people's experiences. It's a wonderful way to secure our positions in society and make sure that we're informed of what's going on around us.
Marius, does the medium of reading that we use on a regular basis have an impact on the rate of literacy in South Africa? I mean, social media and technology has made reading even more fun.
Definitely. And I think, you know, there are two camps. The one camp sort of takes the highbrow, elitist approach, saying that reading is only proper reading if you're doing it on a paper book, you know. If you're reading on a screen, then that doesn't really count as reading. And I think that is profoundly inaccurate. What we need to do more is encourage people to read on a screen. Social media, that counts as reading. Going onto your phone, checking out the news on there, that counts as reading. Reading an ebook, that counts as reading. And that's what we need to be cultivating. So there are pros and cons for both mediums, reading on screen or reading a book. But the most important thing is that we actually read and that we move away from saying, oh, I'm not reading because I'm not reading a printed book.
I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Marius. We do apologize for that. But then 2017, just briefly, it's a World Literacy Day 2017 and it's coming up this week. So what big plans do you have in store for South Africans to encourage them to read in 20 seconds?
Well, there's a South African Book Fair is happening next weekend in Johannesburg, and the Open Book Festival is happening in Cape Town the same weekend. Lots of local and international authors. If you're in either Cape Town or Joburg, check us out. We'll be there, and we'll read in all 11 languages.
All right. Marius, great chatting to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was Marius Du Plessis. He's a catalyst at Via Africa and he's been helping us to unpack the current state of literacy in South Africa as it stands at the moment, and as well as giving us possible solutions that can help in decreasing the high percentage of illiteracy in our country. Let's take a short break now. We'll be right back.